Next on Recharge, we're going to continue our conversation about electric truck maintenance and technician training with two subject matter experts from Volvo Trucks North America. So I'd like to welcome Scott Behe. He's Senior Manager of Training Operations, and Dave Thomasma, Dealer Development Manager at Volvo Trucks. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Scott. So I want to start by discussing how you're training technicians to work on electric trucks. Of course, this is a very different type of vehicle, right? And that can be daunting for technicians who have been working on diesel trucks for years, if not decades, and those who have had a long career in the industry. But perhaps that challenge can also be an opportunity for technicians to expand their knowledge and work with new technology, which can be an exciting thing for some people. So I'm kind of curious, just describe the range of reactions you see from technicians learning how to work on EVs for the first time. What do you see out there when you bring this to them for the first time?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a range. I think all the energy's high.
Yeah.
I think the energy level of our technicians is really high, and I think that goes for everybody. Experienced technicians, that have been turning wrenches for 20 years. You know, Technology's always changed, but it's always basically the same. This is a new adventure, and they're learning new things. We can't set up enough training classes fast enough for technicians. We're constantly full, so it's exciting. And I think for new technicians that are just starting to dip their toes into getting into the industry, the change to more data analytics and diagnosis and of electrical schematics and those things bring a lot of excitement to the job.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Scott. And David, I want to ask you the same question. Have anything to add to what Scott's seen out there as technicians start to learn this?
Yeah, so Scott's correct in the fact that there is a lot of excitement around this. And, really at our dealerships, this training can be seen as a type of promotion within the dealership service department. And, it comes with a great amount of responsibility. And it's really important to identify the correct technicians who have a development plan in place at the dealers.
Okay. And I'm wondering how long it takes for, again, an experienced diesel technician, knows his or her craft very well. How long does it take to bring someone up to speed, to really learn how to maintain and repair battery electric trucks?
Yeah, so the actual training path that includes online learning, some in-person learning, and hands-on learning at one of our training centers around North America is about 15 hours. That's specifically just to the battery electric vehicles, but that's more so focused on safety for the commissioning, decommissioning of the battery so that they're safe to handle. Um, but the training to repair the trucks is it's constantly evolving right now. So that's going to continue to change as we learn new things as we go down this road together.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think the whole industry is learning and has a very kind of a long road ahead to adapt to all the many complexities and facets of rolling out an electric vehicle fleet, from infrastructure to maintenance, as we're discussing here. Speaking of that sort of infrastructure, David, I want to talk to you a little bit more about Volvo's independent dealer network, across North America. I mean, I've been following this, and your dealers have been steadily obtaining certification to sell and support Volvo's new line of battery electric trucks, VNR electric. And how much progress have you made toward establishing this national support network, so fleet customers who are interested in this can deploy electric trucks really regardless of their location?
Yeah, well, our dealership network nationwide, that is a certified electric vehicle dealer, EV dealer, at this point continues to grow. Publicly, we've announced that there are 25 Volvo certified EV dealers, and there are a few additional dealers that are close to completing the certification process, and a few that also have completed, but we have not yet announced. So, these locations, they span across North America. They cover 21 different U.S. states and Canadian territories at this point. And there's also numerous other dealerships that are currently working through this process.
Okay. And Scott, anything else to add on, sort of the the process of getting this support network in place, through dealers, and also the fleet operators themselves to support these new vehicles.
Yeah, I think we have a really strong um, systematic approach, and and at the end of the day, our dealers are going to be the experts, right? It's new technology, and we're very specific with who we're training and certifying. And right now, that's our dealers, because they're just going to be the ones, because it is high voltage. I'm sure we'll talk about those things at some point, but it's a very specific safety
Sure.
safety concern. So we want to make sure we emphasize and lean on our dealer network.
Okay. And I also want to dig in a little bit more into the this EV certification process for the dealers. So, Dave, what steps does a dealer need to undergo? What steps do they need to take? How much training does their staff need, so they're prepared to support their customers as they start to deploy these vehicles, and work through the complexities of situations like vehicle charging. Just what goes into taking a dealer and getting them ready for this.
Yeah, great. So our certified EV dealer process focuses on four main topics that include safety, charging, the dealership facility,
Hmm.
and employee training. And first, we begin with safety because it is the most important aspect of this whole process. And then we move on to charging, and that charging choice and installation, it takes the longest amount of time in this process and is the largest investment as well. So, there's a lot of conversations that need to happen with the utility companies
Yeah.
and electrical contractors in the dealer's area, making sure that they have that correct 480 volt three phase power to operate a high powered DC charger. And then the topic on training, it's extremely important as well to our dealership staff. There's in depth safety training for technicians and sales training that focuses on differentiating the EV sales process to customers.
Okay. And maybe just kind of zooming out and looking more broadly at the maintenance considerations for battery electric trucks. Based on my conversations so far with both truck manufacturers and fleets that are early adopters, there is a sense that EV maintenance will be less complex than what we see today with diesel trucks, in part because there are fewer, significantly fewer moving parts, with an EV. And of course, you no longer have all the diesel emissions after treatment systems, which can of course be the source of some of the biggest maintenance headaches. So I'm curious to hear from both of you. I'll start with you, Scott. What are your expectations for how electric truck maintenance will compare with diesel trucks, and what are you seeing in the real world so far, as your customers, your first customers are rolling these out?
Yeah, I think there's definitely the less moving parts and less opportunity for wear. Obviously, none of the basic oil changes and emission components like you mentioned. Um, but at the end of the day, it's still a truck that has electrical systems and safety systems and all those things. When you get outside the power component of the battery, a lot of the other components are the same. So
Yeah.
so there'll be still be a fair amount of standard maintenance. And I think in terms of real world use and determining what those future needs are going to be, we're 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 living in the future, so to speak, right now. So we're living it. So we're learning, I think, what the real world use is as we go right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I think, that's part of that learning experience as well. And, more will be learned over time as some of these vehicles, rack up miles in the field, and in different applications, right? In different climates, there's lots of considerations and a lot to learn. Dave, anything you want to add to sort of your general expectations for EV maintenance?
Yeah, so uh, there are a lot less moving parts on an EV compared to a diesel truck, as Scott said. But as we get more and more trucks in the market, there's still a lot to learn here, and it's an evolving technology. And as we learn, we're incorporating those lessons into our practices.
Yeah, and I think it's important for I guess our viewers and really the whole industry to understand that these trucks are going to continue to improve. The technology will continue to evolve and get better. So what we see today, is not the final form of battery electric trucks. We'll see continued progression and improvement, just like we've seen for many years on the diesel side. I want to go back to technicians, and of course, as you both know, the trucking industry is having a very hard time attracting that next generation of technicians to enter this profession. Even though these can be very good jobs for a lot of people, especially those who are hands on, who like to solve problems. There's good opportunities, good well paying jobs, but still, it's a struggle. Has been a struggle to find to connect with that next generation of technicians. I've been going to the technology and maintenance council meetings for years now, and that's always a big topic of discussion, is how to find that next generation of technicians to repair and service these vehicles that we all rely on. Scott, do you think that the introduction of electric trucks could make this easier or tougher for the industry to find that next generation of technicians in the future?
I don't know, tougher, easier. I think it's always a challenge with hands-on, technical jobs. But I think the change in technology in the industry is not going to be held just to electrification. I think
Right.
the industry's changing faster than any time in recent history. So I think it's an amazing time for new people to get started in an amazing career that they might not have thought about. We've worked really hard at partnering with three. We call them DATE programs. They stand for right now. They stand for the D stands for diesel, so we may have to change the name of the program. But we partner with three technical schools around the country, and we offer our dealer network some pretty good tools to help with that too. But you know, I think those more detailed aspects and more use of computers and
Mhm.
handheld diagnostic tools and those kind of things really open up a whole new avenue to get people into the shop.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that, yes, it's a challenge on one hand, but that challenge can also be, an opportunity that might excite people about the
Oh, yeah,
possibilities.
absolutely.
Yeah. And Dave, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so as Scott said, the processes to work on these EVs, it's different than diesel. And really moving into the future here, we expect these trucks, these EV trucks, to attract a new generation of technicians.
Yeah. Another question that I think about as I start to see these vehicles hit the road, and small numbers today, but clearly poised for growth, and where I think we're really looking at one of a foundational technology for the future of the industry with battery electric, for the right applications. But um, what types of electric truck maintenance and repairs do you see fleets handling in house with their own technicians? And in what cases are they going to be more likely to rely on the expertise of their dealer? So just kind of curious on how you see that breakdown. Maybe I'll start with you, Dave, on that one.
Yeah, great. So with this new technology, our certified EV dealers, they're the experts on both servicing and repairing our electric trucks. We do have the Volvo Gold service contract, which brings a value to our customers by ensuring they're going to be supported by a certified EV dealer for their fleet repair needs.
Okay. And Scott, I also want to ask you the same question on sort of that breakdown. What types of maintenance do you think these fleet operators will be handling in house, and when are they going to turn to their dealer network to support them?
Yeah, I think definitely initially and for the foreseeable future, they're going to rely on the dealer network again, just because we've
Yeah.
put together an all-inclusive package that everything's initially covered.
Hmm.
So I think it makes the most sense in the short term. And again, just the safety and the tooling, and David mentioned earlier the expense and making sure that they have all the tools and all the safety equipment and charging infrastructure and those things. Um, make it a significant investment that in that case the fleets don't have to make, and they can rely on their dealer and probably save themselves the initial investment for in the short term as well.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, I think. And you consider all the, again, complexities, right? A whole new vehicle type, many new considerations that go into it. So if you can really lean on your dealer to handle the maintenance side aspect of it, that makes it that much easier for a fleet operator to a trucking company to dip their toes in this and actually get this out there and deployed. Um, yeah, and Scott, I'll also ask you: is there anything about EV maintenance compared to diesel that's different that our viewers might not be aware of? So, things I think about, maybe implications for brakes and tire wear. You have an EV that has regenerative braking, which is new. Different maybe acceleration characteristics. But what's something different from maintaining an EV, or different considerations for an EV versus a diesel that maybe we're not talking about a whole lot yet?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think the detailed understanding of electrical systems, right? Even in a diesel truck, there's plenty of electrical systems, and understanding those schematics is important to troubleshooting the issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I think understanding the electrical systems and the analysis and how to diagnose those troubles, that's now so much more electronic and done by plugging in laptops and handhelds and finding the troubles that way and understanding the technology of it. I guess I liken it to, right, when I was my kid's age, I didn't have a cell phone, and now they wouldn't know life without a cell phone. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to be the same thing going forward for our technicians.
Yeah.
Some of the older diesel technicians have that knowledge of those electric schematics, but using all the technology tools that go along with it to work on trucks today it's a little different, and in the coming years it's just going to become second nature. But I think that's the thing that stands out to me is, well, you don't have to be an electrician. Understanding what it would take to be an electrician doesn't hurt.
Yeah, fair enough. Dave, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so our electric trucks, they've got a high voltage battery storage system, and part of the certified EV dealer process is our dealers putting in place personal protective equipment and insulated hand tools that are needed to work with to both maintain and repair these trucks.
Yeah, certainly some safety elements, and maybe I'll get into that right now. We've been kind of alluding to this a little bit, but of course there are some specific safety procedures for working with electric trucks. We're talking about some very high voltages, so maybe just quickly walk us through some of these new safety procedures that are going to be important in maintenance shops, especially these dealers that are going to be working on these vehicles. Either one of you can jump in on this, and then be happy to hear both your thoughts.
I'll start here, Scott. So, with certain repairs on these electric trucks, the battery is going to need to be disconnected. And this is when a certified EV technician will use that PPE and insulated hand tools to protect themselves while working on the truck through that process and working with that high voltage system.
Yeah, there just has to be extreme awareness of the hazards that come with high voltage in electrical systems. The safety and understanding of that process Dave just mentioned, of how to disconnect the batteries to make it safe to work around and be around and use all the PPE correctly. I mean, you almost think of a lineman in an electric truck up on high wire. I mean, they're using a lot of the same PPE now to work on a truck. And we do a lot, and Dave and his team do a lot to ensure our dealerships are properly prepared and equipped with all those things, and they have the right tools and the right equipment. It's not a order an electric truck and show up and sell it and service it. There is a long process that goes to it. So it's definitely an investment in time, but especially it's a really big investment in their people to make sure that they're protected and safe.
Yeah, well, as you said earlier, safety, of course, comes first in this process, and it's important for us all to keep in mind. Now, before we wrap up here, I'd like to ask you both a question about the future of electric trucks and EV maintenance in the trucking industry. As I mentioned before, of course, we're still in the very early days here, but I'll ask you both to kind of envision 10 years from now. How widespread do you think electric trucks are going to be in the freight transportation industry, and how much progress will we see at that point in the maintenance and charging infrastructure is going to support those vehicles? I'll give you the first crack at that, Scott.
So I really think things are changing so rapidly right now. It's a little bit hard to imagine where we're going to be 10 years,
Yeah.
because it's electric and it's a lot more than that, right? It's going to be autonomous and other things, and all those things that'll play roles together. But today's batteries with a full load can go X distance, but in 10 years they're probably going to go significantly farther and charge faster and do all those things. So I think in addition with all the other technologies coming, we're going to make sure we're here to constantly update the training and the technology so that we can keep being an industry leader in electric vehicles. And then I think there's some things that are out of our control to some degree, like national infrastructure,
Sure.
and those things. But we, again, Volvo's been very aggressive with that, and we've formed some really good partnerships and created some charging corridors, especially in California, where there's been early high adoption of electric, and partnership with Pilot and Fly and J to identify locations where we can help them set up charging stations too. So while it's somewhat out of our control, Volvo's not just sitting by and waiting to see what happens, or being a leader at the government and national level as well.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Scott. And Dave, I'll ask you the same sort of crystal ball question on how you see,
Sure.
this emerging piece of the commercial vehicle market growing and evolving over the next 10 years.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I would second everything that Scott just said as well. And, yeah, we're currently in the early days of the transportation industry's transition to either electric or zero emission vehicles. And really, the Volvo Group, we're committed to being a leader in this space and continuously developing the current technology that we have, and always looking for and developing new technologies as they come along as well. So
Great. Well, hey, I really appreciate you both taking some time out of your day for this conversation. It's an important conversation because there is so much to learn, as we discussed, throughout this conversation. But it's been fascinating to watch, and we'll be watching it very closely as we see more and more of these trucks hit the road. So thank you again for both Scott and Dave for joining the program.
Again, thanks for having us.
Seth.